I'm Steve Guggenheim, and this is Traveling with Goose. Here in no particular order are some thumbnail sketches of overseas places I've been to. Cape Town, South Africa. What a beautiful city with a lot of things to do. You can hike or take a cable car up to Table Mountain for gorgeous views of the region. A sunset champagne cruise is a wonderful way to spend an evening. Day trips can take you to the winelands area where you can sample some incredible wines. Another day trip you shouldn't miss is to the Cape of Good Horn. Staying in South Africa, make sure to take a safari where you see big game roaming around in their natural habitat. You don't have to travel to some of the largest game parks, since you'll have a fabulous adventure at smaller ones such as Pilanesberg, and it's malaria-free, which means no shots. Amsterdam, a fun city where you can cruise one of their many canals and visit world-class art museums, but be careful as you dodge the thousands of bikes that commuters use. Talk about dodging vehicles. In Saigon, you have to be careful about the motor scooters that travel wherever you walk. Sidewalks are a normal route as they try and get around clogged traffic. It's a very lively city. Make sure to visit the former presidential palace where so many meetings were held on the Vietnam War. The most lively city by far, well eclipsing New York, is Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia. Everyone is out to have a good time. You can't help but being caught up in the fun. You have to ride in a tuk-tuk, a small carriage attached to a motor scooter. What a ride as they dodge in and out of traffic, cutting off trucks, buses, and everything else. While in Asia, make sure to visit Luang Prabang in Laos, a small, quaint, friendly city. Visit the market and find fruits and vegetables you've never heard of before. Wake up at 4 a.m., get bowls of rice, and travel to the area to feed the monks as they line up in their saffron robes to get their food for the day. Italy's Amalfi Coast is as beautiful as the pictures depict, but don't do the driving. Let a professional take you on the colorful, winding roads. While there, take a boat ride to the Isle of Capri. Walk the hilly roads and get a delicious drink as you soak in the amazing scenery. Budapest is a gorgeous city, with Buda on one side of the Danube and Pest on the other side. You may be tired of seeing amazing houses of worship, but visit the main synagogue with its gorgeous stained windows. Many of the smallest cities in Europe have gorgeous town squares with sidewalk cafes and strolling musicians. Bruges in Belgium is one such town. You'll find delicious food and wine, but not to be missed are the waffles. So light an area, true culinary delight. I love waffles, but these are nothing like anything you've had before. They're beyond heavenly. As for the chocolate, wow, especially the truffles. Vienna is a large cosmopolitan city. I'm not a big fan of classical music, but that would change if I spent more time in Europe. While there, you must attend a concert. You'll be quite surprised. And don't miss Schönbrunn Palace, which is modeled after Versailles. The palace was the home of the Habsburg family, which ruled much of Europe for hundreds of years. Prague is a nice city with a beautiful square. To get a good perspective, visit the castle above the city and the old Jewish quarter just off the central square. You'll find the oldest synagogue in existence. Venice should be on everyone's list. The whole ambiance captures you, whether riding the canals, eating and dancing in St. Mark's Square, visiting the museums or walking down side streets, but don't go in the summer. It's ridiculously crowded. We took a local boat to the Jewish section and saw how regular Venetians live. Boats instead of trucks used by handymen. Laundry hanging across the canals from one apartment to the next. One thing I like to do is get away from the tourist areas and see what life is really like for the residents. Rome can't be missed for all of the historic sites such as the Colosseum. It is large and expansive with huge sections that are fun to roam. Turn the corner and there's a piazza, then another and another and another as they keep popping up. What surprised me most was the Vatican. I'm not Catholic, but was totally taken by the museums, the Sistine Chapel, the plaza, and the history. Paris is one of the most beautiful cities you'll find. Walking down the Champs-Élysées is breathtaking with sidewalk cafes and expensive shops. There's something interesting around every corner. The Eiffel Tower is a sight to behold. On our first visit, I did not get a chance to spend much time in the Louvre, but seeing the Mona Lisa was well worth the visit. And you must simply visit Versailles, the home of royalty, with its beautiful, exquisite gardens. There is much to see in London. You could spend your entire vacation there and not cover it. Walk across the Thames and take a Ferris wheel ride. Try warm beer, but stay away from the apple pie in a saucer filled with cream. As good as those waffles in Bruges were, is how bad the pie is. Cuba feels like time stood still. Walk the streets in Havana and you feel as if you're in a U.S. city in the 50s. Nice and charming, but not really modern. If you're a fan of old cars like me, a visit there is like being in a museum. They're more beautiful and in better shape than you expect. A delightful place to visit is Hemingway's summer home, which is a short distance from Havana. It's a beautiful residence and area. Buenos Aires, a nice cosmopolitan city, a good place to walk and easily get lost. See some historical sites and move on. Israel. Security is not as overpowering as you might expect, and we felt safe walking around. To really understand the history, you need a guide. It's impossible to beat the country as far as religious significance. The Wailing Wall is very emotional. Bethlehem is very crowded with narrow streets. One of the highlights and a must for everyone is a trip to the Dead Sea. You don't have to be a swimmer to float in the water. It's a lot of fun. A visit to the Palestinian territories is like day and night. The Israeli areas are bright, modern, and green, while the contrast is old, dusty, and brown. That's just a thumbnail sketch of some of the places I've visited. Wherever you decide to go, you'll have a great time if you relax and realize you may run into some things you're not comfortable with. You'll come home with great memories. This is Steve Guggenheim, traveling with Googs.